Hello, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to support the channel. My name is Kalyi, and I combine spiritual wisdom, scientific knowledge, and psychology to help people raise their vibration. And today we're going to be talking about the dimensions and how do you know which dimension you're in at any particular time. You may be aware that the Earth is going through an ascension or a shift, which happens every 26,000 years or so. And it basically means that we have a lot of assistance to help us raise our vibration at this time from 3D to 5D. When I say D, it can either mean dimension or density, depending on which source you're going by. But I'm going to use both of these words interchangeably to mean the same thing. So we have 3D, 4D, and 5D at the same time on the Earth right now. And our individual aim is to raise our frequency from 3D to 5D. But it's not necessarily a smooth, linear climb. We can go backwards from fourth to third, then back up to fifth, depending on what state we're in during the day and what circumstances we're facing. There's certain things you can do to raise your vibration, but we'll talk about those later in the video. For now, we'll talk about the different dimensions and how you know you're in a particular dimension at any time. So the third dimension is the densest, and it's characterized by the brain. The brain has two hemispheres, and so in 3D, we're working with and exploring polarities, such as good, bad, male, female, right, wrong, war, peace. Some signs that you're operating in the third density are things such as you only perceive things with your 5 physical senses, and you'll say things such as, only things that we can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell are real. Everything else is not real, does not exist. But this is not true, and for example, the light spectrum that exists and can be measured with sensitive instruments, we can only perceive with our physical eyes 0.005% of that light spectrum, which is an incredibly small amount. Another sign is that you are perceiving things in a very black and white way, with hardly any shades of grey. For example, you might say that a person is a good person or a bad person, when in reality, we all do really good things and really bad things. There's shades of grey to each of us. It doesn't mean that we're all good or all bad. We're more complex than that. Another sign is that you may be fighting with what is, fighting with life. What I mean by that is, instead of acknowledging what's happening, you'll say things such as, this shouldn't be happening, or that shouldn't exist. This is a total waste of energy. If something is happening, then acknowledge it as quickly as possible, and then you can act. Another sign is that you may be experiencing negative emotions most of the time. Fear, anger, resentment, confusion. If you're finding yourself experiencing these kind of emotions the majority of the time, then you're most likely in the third density. And another point is that you see life as a burden or a punishment rather than as a gift or an opportunity. Two more signs are that you may be eating and drinking too many toxic foods, alcohol and junk food, for example. Your body may feel heavy and experience aches and pains, headaches. You may be developing illnesses, and you may lack motivation to do the things that you really want to do. You may feel fatigued a lot of the time. The fourth dimension or density has a higher frequency than the third, and you may be experiencing this dimension if you start to perceive more of what's really here through your intuition and psychic abilities. Many people are taught to deny that such things exist, but we've all experienced intuition, such as many people say, I was thinking about someone and then they rang me, or my phone rang and I knew who it was and that turned out to be correct. But we're taught to dismiss and ridicule these things. But really, these are abilities that we all have to perceive more of what's really here. And if we develop these abilities, we will raise our vibration. Another sign that you may be ascending into fourth dimension is that you start to realize that you are very creative and you are the source of creation in your own life. Negative things that you encounter are really only mirrors of the negativity within you. And if you address and change those negative aspects of yourself, then your outer reality will start to change for the better as well. You start to choose which emotions you're going to feel, and you go towards experiencing the more positive emotions most of the time. You also can choose which things to keep within your life circumstances and which things to let go of, because they may be dragging your energy and your vibration downwards instead of lifting it upwards. Things such as negative people, for example. If you have friends or even family who constantly put you down and blame you for things that happen in their life that are negative, then you may want to choose to distance yourself from these people. Also, you might start to choose not to drink things such as alcohol and junk food. Eventually, you'll probably start to lose interest in these things and their effects as you raise your vibration higher and higher. You may become more aware of things that you really enjoy, things that you're really passionate about, following your bliss, as Joseph Campbell calls it in The Hero's Journey. And you may start to do these things even in a part-time or hobby kind of capacity. Your body may also feel a lot more energized, more flexible, You may start to lose aches and pains, have less headaches, not develop illnesses as you age. I'm going to be 60 in a few months, and I feel as good, if not better, than I did in my 20s. In my 20s, I used to have terrible migraines every day. I never get headaches anymore. And I had a lot of aches and pains, especially in my knees and my lower back. These have largely gone now. And I know it's mainly due to the way that I've been following the spiritual and energetic practices to raise my frequency over the decades. The fifth dimension is the highest frequency, probably the highest frequency that most of us will achieve in this lifetime. And it's not easy to achieve. It's characterized by the heart, and when you're in 5D, you'll feel a sense of unity and loving connection with nature, other people, plants and animals, and also feel more love towards yourself. You'll probably be a lot more conscious of what you do in this life, how you spend your time. If you have a job that you absolutely hate, in 5D you will stop doing that job and most likely will take on your true passions and interests as your full-time occupation. You'll also, as I mentioned, start to see your life as more of a gift and an opportunity rather than a burden or punishment. And you will look forward to each day with joy and hope. I read this book, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind by Deepak Chopra in my 20s, and I was amazed to learn that you don't have to age badly. I was pretty skeptical when I first read it, but now I understand that this can be a reality if you decide to practice certain behaviors, beliefs, perceptions in your own life. In the 5D frequency, you'll start to experience more positive emotions for the vast majority of the time. When I was in my 20s, I used to really dislike my life and dislike myself. But honestly now, I can say that most of the day, every day, I feel positivity, joy, happiness, contentment. I look forward to the day. You'll also start to feel a sense of inner calm so that outside circumstances don't affect you as much. No matter what happens outside you, you'll still feel this calmness, this solid foundation that is very hard to shake. Also, your body will start to feel more energized, more youthful. You may even start to look younger, and you won't develop any of the normal illnesses that are said to inevitably come about with age. So what are the practices you need to do to raise your frequency from 3D to 5D? Some of them you would have heard before, but these things are not simply concepts. They need to be practiced. in order to affect the changes in yourself. A good example is if you want to become an Olympic sprinter, it's not enough just to read books about it and think about it. You actually need to start to do the actions and do them regularly and with commitment in order for your body to change into a running machine. If you simply read the books and think about it, then the changes aren't going to happen. It's the same with the spiritual. Many people, myself included when I was younger, thought that understanding the concept was enough. It's not. So the first practice, this is what I started with, and it's a good place to start, is being aware of your own thoughts. This is not easy. When I was in my 20s and I became aware of this concept, I set an alarm clock to go off at random times during the day. And when it went off, I would stop what I was doing and I would write down what I'd just been thinking about. And honestly, I was shocked at how negative and judgmental my thoughts were, and how painful my emotions were. I was in the negative emotion state and suffering most of the day. So it's not easy to become aware of what you're thinking. A lot of the time we will be unaware of it because it's largely coming from our subconscious, from our conditioning that we experienced throughout our life. And so it's quite difficult to bring that subconscious into the conscious, but it's possible, and it must be done if we are to raise our vibration, because we can't keep acting and living our life from our unconscious thoughts if we're going to raise our vibration. Another thing that you may have heard of is to exercise gratitude every day. And this has been mentioned so many times in spiritual circles that it's almost a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, because it's necessary and it works. If you do it and don't just, once again, think you've understood the concept and then not actually put it into practice. So if you're complaining about your life, you're going to create your future on that frequency, on that vibration. Conversely, if you're focusing on what you're grateful for, you're going to create your future on that frequency. So it's good to start writing down these things initially so that you have a record of how often you're doing it. And when I first started doing this, it was really hard for me to come up with even 3 things I was grateful for. But now I see that things can be things that you take for granted, such as having eyesight, having 2 legs to walk around with, because people who don't have eyesight and who don't have 2 legs suffer greatly because of this. If you have these things, you often take them for granted, but to acknowledge them and be grateful for them really lifts your frequency and makes you see more of what you have rather than what you don't have. Another thing to practice is forgiveness. And this has been mentioned so many times that, once again, a lot of people just see it as a cliche, but it's not easy to do. And if you do it well, it will have a transformative effect on your energy. So many people think that forgiveness is about condoning what someone has done to us and forgetting it ever happened. It's not that. Forgiveness is not that. You don't have to forget what happened. You can still be aware of exactly what happened. You're not condoning it. You're saying, it wasn't good. But you're seeing it in a different light. Instead of, for example, feeling like you have been diminished because someone abused you. This is very common, but this is our choice. We don't have to feel diminished when someone does something negative to us. Forgiveness is about realizing they did these things because they were damaged, because they were lacking in some way. They didn't have enough self-love, for example, to give us the love that we needed. Especially difficult when we're a child. But if you can see them in this way, it changes the perspective. They're no longer some evil entity who has damaged you for life. They were just a damaged person who was unaware of what to do and how to work through the damage or even acknowledge it. And so I often liken these type of people to someone who's drowning. They're drowning and they're thrashing away in the water. And if someone comes close to them, they may get hit. But the person is not saying to themselves, I really want to hit that person. That person is just there and they're flailing around and so they get hit. I think this is true most of the time with people who harm us. If it hadn't been us, it would have been someone else. So it's, even though it feels deeply personal because it happened to us, usually that person was just treating people that way because they were damaged. So it helps you let go of that negative behavior that was done to you. You're not condoning it. You're not forgetting it. You're putting it into perspective. And then this segues into the third behavior that you can do, which is letting go. Once you, for example, with the forgiveness, once you have realized that it was someone else's weaknesses or suffering that caused the whole situation, you can see them in that way and then choose to let it go. Because why would you hang on to it when the person couldn't do any differently at the time? It's kind of like if a toddler came over and hit you on the head with an object. They're not doing it on purpose. They're just flailing around with that object and your head happened to be in the way. There'd be no point in being angry with that toddler. You have to acknowledge that they're in that level of development where they're unaware that they've hurt you. And it's the same with adults who've hurt you. in your childhood, for example. It's very difficult to do, and a lot of people, myself included when I was younger, think that if you forgive people, then you're letting them get away with it. But that's not the truth. Nobody gets away with anything that they do. There is a karmic action consequence to everything that we do. But it's not up to us to make sure that happens to people. That will happen anyway. It's up to us to release things that are causing us to feel negative emotions and choose to feel positive emotions, which we can do, and this helps us in many, many ways. If we're constantly suffering, reliving, going over and over how people have hurt us, we're the ones who are damaging ourselves again and again, not that other person. So to raise into the fifth dimension, we will forgive, let go, and feel love towards the person or people who've hurt us in our life. And feel love for ourselves. We will forgive the person or people who hurt us, and we'll forgive ourselves for feeling that way, for putting ourselves in the circumstance. We couldn't help it. We were powerless to escape at the time, most likely. And so we forgive ourselves as well. We also feel gratitude for the opportunity to experience these things, because even the negative things in life can be seen as a gift and an opportunity. Because if we only experienced positive things in our life, we most likely wouldn't grow and evolve. It's the difficult things that cause us to change ourself and our circumstance for the better. And I'll reiterate that these things are not easy to do. It's very hard to face your particular challenges and overcome them to evolve and raise your vibration. But this is really why we're here. This is our main purpose of why we're here. Everything else is secondary to that. When we die, we will evaluate very quickly whether we have raised our vibration or not. And that's all we'll care about. We won't care about the expensive car we bought or the mansion we lived in. That will be completely irrelevant. So be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself while you're doing these things. And don't expect that they're going to happen within a certain time limit that you have set. We don't know how long these things take. The point is to keep doing it. Stay with the practice. Never give up. I hope this video has helped you, and wherever you are in the world, I wish you all the best. Take care, and bye for now.